Do you even realize they could throw you off this base because of her?" The sergeant shouted so loudly that the entire medical wing went silent, while young soldier Daniel Brooks stood in the middle of the hallway at Fort Hood, Texas, clenching his fists without saying a word, because behind him stood the woman who had caused all this chaos. Military nurse Emily Carter, a woman 10 years older than him who had survived Afghanistan, lost her husband in the military and learned long ago how to bury her emotions. But around Daniel, none of that worked anymore. They met after a night training exercise when he was rushed into the medbay bleeding heavily from shrapnel after a grenade explosion, and it was Emily who held his hand while the doctors pulled metal fragments from his shoulder. From that day on, Daniel searched for every excuse to see her again, and for the first time in years, Emily began to smile again. But people on the base quickly noticed the way they looked at each other, and the jokes soon became cruel. Soldiers started calling Emily the old babysitter, and Daniel the nurse's little boy. The command staff pressured them every single day, separating their shifts and trying to keep them apart. And one evening, someone even painted on the medbay door in red letters, "She's old enough to be your mother." Emily cried alone in the restroom, thinking about transferring to another state, but Daniel refused to give up, because for the first time in his life, he was ready to fight not for an order, but for the person he loved. The bullying became so vicious that Daniel was intentionally sent into the most dangerous training exercises, while Emily was repeatedly called into psychological evaluations and warned that her military career could end if this circus didn't stop. But everything changed the night a fire broke out inside the ammunition warehouse after an electrical short circuit. Sirens screamed across Fort Hood as soldiers ran through the base in panic, while inside the burning warehouse, a wounded mechanic was trapped with no way out because of the explosions. Without waiting for orders, Daniel charged straight into the flames. And when the roof started collapsing, Emily ran in after him, even as everyone screamed for her to come back. Together, they dragged the unconscious man outside just seconds before a massive explosion tore through the building, and the security cameras captured everything. Emily shielding Daniel with her own body from flying debris, and Daniel carrying her through the smoke after she lost consciousness. By the next morning, the footage had spread across the entire base, and the same people who had mocked them for months stood there in silence, because for the first time, they no longer saw a strange couple. They saw two people who were willing to die for each other. And 6 months later, wearing his military uniform, Daniel proposed to Emily in the middle of a packed baseball stadium in Dallas. And when she whispered yes, the entire crowd rose to their feet and applauded so loudly that Daniel could barely hold back his tears.